Hi, today we'll talk about gas exchange. Respiration is not breathing. All organisms respire. It is the production of ATP from organic molecules. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen. This is where ventilation and gas exchange comes in. Here you can see that the mechanism of gas exchange differs from that of the fish than of the human. In fish, the gas exchange occurs across thin-mouthed surface in the respiratory organs, such as gills, tracheal systems, and the other lungs. While in human, in the respiratory system, air travels through branching tubes to the lungs, where gases are exchanged with the blood. And you can see the transport of gases in the human body. There are circulatory system where the transport of oxygen to the body tissues and returns carbon dioxide to the lung. So the gas exchange in humans involve breathing, transport of gases, and exchange with body fluids or body cells. So you can see here, breathing start with breathing in oxygen and getting out carbon dioxide. Soon after that, the circulatory system transport of gases by the circulatory system that soon in the tissues through the capillaries there is exchange of gases with body cells. So oxygen is delivered to the cells and carbon dioxide are taken out. So the gas exchange occurs across a specialized respiratory surface. Gas exchange supplies oxygen for cellular respiration and disposes carbon dioxide. Animals require large mass respiratory surface for adequate diffusion of gases between cells and the respiratory medium, either air or water. From this simplified figure, you can see that the oxygen internalization on the to the organism level is through respiratory surface. That soon the oxygen is carried out by the circulatory system to the tissues at the cellular level to do production of ATP. The byproduct of the production of ATP is carbon dioxide, which soon conveyed to the outside via the circulatory system through the respiratory surface. Gills in the aquatic animals. Gills are outfoldings of the body surface specialized for gas exchange. In some invertebrates, like animals which don't have vertebral columns, like insects, gills have a simple shape and distributed over the body. Many segmented worms have flap-like gills extending from each segment of the body, while the gills of clams, crayfish, and other animals are restricted into local body region. So this is an example of the gills of the sea star. You can see that when we take a section through one of the arms of the sea star, you can see that gills are distributed and extending from the body surface. While here, the gills on the marine worm, you can see they are like out projection or folds outside on each segment of the worm, and they represented the respiratory surface. Here you can see as well in scallop, you can see that the gills are located internally between the bivalves of the animal. Internally, two pairs, while in crayfish the gills are localized as well internally inside the shell of the crayfish. Looking more deeper into the gills in aquatic animals, the effectiveness of gas exchange in some gills, including those of fish, is increased by ventilation and countercurrent flow of blood and water. That's meaning moving of the blood or the water in opposite direction. So you can see in the fish, the gills are covered by a gill cover called operculum, and the water, once swallowed by the fish, it passes over the gills. When we enlarge this part of the gill, you can see that the blood vessels are moving, artery and veins are moving in the axis, and the gill arch are being bathed by the water flow and through the gill filaments. And when we enlarge a part of these gill filaments, you can see that the gill filament is composed of lamellae, which are extensions that is full of capillaries for the blood flow and for the exchange of gases. You can see that the oxygen-rich blood is collected from the lamellae, where the oxygen-poor blood is conveyed to the lamellae for the aim of gas exchange. You can see that the direction of the blood, of the direction of the water flow, which represented by the blue arrows, blue big arrows, is opposite to the direction of the blood, which is represented by the black arrows, black thin arrows. So again, if we simplified this counter current flow of blood and water, you can see that the oxygen rich blood appears here in red, is moving opposite to water flow, which contains oxygen. As you can see, that the percentage of oxygen is decreased upon gas exchange between the water and the blood, until we have oxygen-rich blood represented by the red color. Tracheal system in insects. The tracheal system of insects consists of tiny branching tubes that penetrate the body. The tracheal tubes supply oxygen directly to body cells. Here you can see the locusts have air sac, which is extension from the tracheal tubes, and this air sac is open to the outside through a spiracle. While in beetles, you can see that as well the same pattern appears with the tracheal system that opens to outside by an opening as well, and there is a lot of respiratory surface. This opening is used for gas exchange. When we enlarge a part of the tracheal system, and you can see the spiracle, and you can see the branching of tracheoles, and as well you can see the air sacs and the body cells is presented by this orange circles. When you enlarge a part of these tracheoles, you can see it's full of mitochondria and fibrils for contraction, and the tracheoles are embedded inside it. Lungs. Spider, land snails, and most terrestrial vertebrates have internal lungs. An amphibian such as frog ventilates its lung by positive pressure breathing, which forces air down the trachea. And you can see from the figure how the air is breathed in and the lungs are enlarged. For a closer look for the respiratory system in mammals consists of branching ducts convey the air to the lungs. Air inhaled through the nostril passes through the pharynx into the trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles and dead-end alveoli, where gas exchange occurs. And you can see that the oxygen-poor blood, which comes from the heart, the vessel is broken down into capillaries inside the alveoli, where exchange of gases occur. Soon after that, the oxygen-rich blood collecting the blood from the alveoli is conveyed to the heart. So how a mammal breathes? Mammals ventilate their lung by negative pressure breathing, which pulls air into the lung. So the lung, as you can see from the figure, the lung volume during the process of inhalation, the lung volume increase as the rib muscle and diaphragm contract. So gases diffuse down a pressure gradient. What's meaning down a pressure gradient? It means that the air or gas diffuses from a region of a high pressure to a region of lower pressure, lower partial pressure. In the lungs and the tissues, oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuse from where their pressure are higher to where they are lower. On the contrary, during the process of exhalation, while the air is exhaled out, the rib cage gets smaller and the rib muscle relax, and the diaphragm as well relax. This leading to the movement of the diaphragm up, um, um, reducing the volume of the rib cage and expelling out the air during the process of exhalation. So how the breathing in human is controlled? Actually, the breathing in human, the main breathing control center is in the brain in the regions called medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata regulates both the rate and the depth of breathing in response to pH change in the cerebrospinal fluid. The medulla adjusts the breathing rate and depth to match metabolic demands. So you can see here from the figure that nerve signals trigger contraction of the rib muscles and the diaphragm, either need to contraction or relaxation. While the the breathing control center responds to the pH of the blood and the cerebrospinal fluid, leading to sending a nerve signal that indicate as well a nerve signal sense the carbon and oxygen levels in the blood through sensors that in the aorta of the heart. From this diagram, you can see the process, how it occurs. So oxygen is inhaled, it passes through the airspace where airspaces in the alveoli where exchange of gases occur. So the oxygen-rich blood is collected to heart and then circulated to the rest of the tissue where through the interstitial fluid there is exchange of gas with the tissues. In the tissues, you have a high pressure of carbon dioxide and a low pressure of oxygen. That's why the oxygen tend to move from the vessel to the tissue, while the carbon dioxide tends to move from the high pressure in the tissue to the vessel. Soon after that, the oxygen poor blood is collected by the vessels represented in blue to the heart to again do another round of circulation through the lungs to get oxygenated, and the carbon dioxide is exhaled out. So what is alveoli and what is the structure of alveoli? Actually, the alveoli is a thin elastic walls have a thin elastic walls for stretching, formed from epithelium, so it's a single cell layer. Beneath the epithelium, there is a dense network of capillaries supplied with deoxygenated blood collected from the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery. Normally in humans, there are about 350 million alveoli with a total absorbing surface around 90 meters square. So you can see from this figure A, the structure of a lung, one lung, and then when we enlarge a part of the lung, you can see that the air passage ends in a tiny pockets which is alveoli. Enlarging more the structure of one alveoli, you can see how the blood supply of the alveoli, how the blood is coming from the pulmonary artery, the oxygen poor blood, and soon after oxygenation it is collected to pass through the pulmonary vein. So the protection of the gas exchange, how is the protection of the gas exchange system from pathogen and particles? Pathogens such as bacteria and dust particles are present in the air we breathe in and are dangerous if not removed. There are two types of cells that provide mechanism to help achieve this. The first one we are familiar with is the goblet cells. Goblet cells are found in the epithelial lining of the trachea, bronchi, and some bronchioles. They secrete mucus, which actually a thin film over the internal lining. This sticky liquid traps pathogen and small particles, preventing them from entering alveoli where they could cause infection or physical damage. While the second type of cells is the ciliated cells, also present in the epithelial lining of the respiratory tract. They continually flicking to move mucus secreted by the goblet cells. They continuously flicking upward and away from the lung. That's why we cough actually. We cough actually, so that means cilia are beating up mucus with collected substances or dust to trying to expel them out of the respiratory system. When mucus reaches the top of trachea, it passes down the gullet during normal swallowing. So here you can see the structure of the first figure on the left, where the goblet cells is located, and you can see that all of the cells have like a brush border, which actually cilia. These are is a section in the trachea. When we enlarge the figure, you can see how the goblet cell differs from the ciliated cells, and how the goblet cell they have like a cavity, the external cavity for the lot of secretion of mucus. So the breathing rate and how the breathing rate is related to the exercise. During exercise, the rate and the depth of breathing oxygen dissolve in blood, so supply more oxygen, so this for the need of rapidly respiring cells, while the carbon dioxide in blood during exercise increase in blood from muscles. This is detected by the brain, which order the intercostal muscles and diaphragm muscle to more contraction and relaxation and more rapidly. This increasing the breathing rate. So by the end, there is a faster removal of carbon dioxide and deeper breathing, which increase the rate of expiration. So what is respiratory pigment? Respiratory pigments are protein that transport oxygen. In almost all vertebrate is a protein called hemoglobin, which is contained in erythrocytes. Like all respiratory pigments, hemoglobin, which actually loading oxygen in the lungs and unloading it in the other part of the body, so actually it's can reversibly bind to oxygen. The binding of oxygen to one subunit induces the other subunit to bind oxygen with more affinity, and any drop in pH lower the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. So you can see from the figure how the hemoglobin consists of four subunits with a heme group. It is got oxygen loaded in lungs and unloads in tissue, and you can see as well, this is a chemical formula of how carbon dioxide is loaded and unloaded to the blood. The human fetus exchange gases with mother's blood. So you can see the human fetus is connected to the blood, to the mother through the umbilical cord, which actually containing the fetal blood vessels. The placenta containing maternal blood vessels and fetal capillaries, and the exchange of gases occur between the maternal blood vessels and the fetal capillaries. So here, this slide distinguishes the difference between respiration, gas exchange, and breathing. So respiration actually it's a series of chemical reactions which happen in all living cells in which food is broken down to release energy, usually by combining it with oxygen. While gas exchange, it's the exchange of gas across the respiratory system surface. For example, oxygen is taken into the body and CO2 is removed from it. Gas exchange also takes place during photosynthesis and respiration of plants, while breathing mainly due to the muscular movement, which keep the respiratory surface supplied with oxygen. Thank you.